Hi, good morning. We're going to take a look today at doing a QuickBooks point of sale physical inventory. If you've ever done one before, it'll be a good review. If you never have, it'll get you started on what you need to think about to do your physical inventory. When you do a physical inventory, one of the first things you want to do is do a backup of your point of sale software. So we'll switch over to our point of sale. To do a backup, we're going to go up here to File. We're going to go to Backup Data. We can either back it up to the default location, or we can back it up to a different location and give it a specific name, such as physical inventory or whatever. I'm going to back it up to my default location. It's going to look at my data. It's going to back it up, and I have a backup. I don't have a lot of data, so it goes fairly quickly. Next thing we want to do, once we've got it backed up, is if you want to take a look at what your on-hand inventory report is, we can go to Reports, we can go to Items, we can run an item list that will show us our inventory. We can resort this in multiple ways. Right now, I am sorted by department. I could resort it by vendor. I could resort by item, item name, whatever made sense for the way I want to look at my inventory. I have my number of items I expect to find on hand. I've got my margin on the items, my cost, my extended cost, my retail, my extended retail. I even have the last date I received that item and the available quantity in case I have some that is out and obligated and not currently available to be sold. So after I finish with my inventory report, I can close out of there, and we're ready to actually start our physical inventory. Now, before you actually start your physical inventory, one of the things you should think about is dividing your store up into zones. Zones are smaller areas of your store that you can scan in 5, 10, 15 minutes. It's an area that you can lay out in a logical manner, a wall, a rack, a shelf, a display case, so that you can scan the items in there and then upload them into your computer or enter them into your computer. And if you find that you have an error, especially when you're scanning the items with the scanner, then you can go back and review that area, because when you're scanning with the scanner, if you get an item that it doesn't recognize, it will show you that. And you want to be able to go back to that area, locate the item so that you can fix it so that it will scan properly. When you're doing that, you're going to be able to see what item you scanned before and after the bad item. Locate the good one and the two good ones. The bad one will be in the middle. Ideally, you're going to want to pull that bad item aside, put it in a fix-it area. When you're all done, try rescanning the items in the fix-it area. If they scan, great, put them back up. If they don't, then you want to print new tags for them so that you can scan them correctly. All right. So with that in mind, we're going to start our physical. We're going to go to Inventory. We're going to go to Start Physical Inventory. If you have multiple stores, you'll get this little window that lets you choose which store you are doing. We're going to do the headquarters. We're going to say OK. Which brings up another issue, is that if you have multiple stores, you have a little extra prep to do before you can start your physical. If you have more than one store, you're going to want to do a sync between the stores. You're going to want to go up to Stores. You're going to want to send files from the remote store to the headquarters store, receive those files at headquarters, process them in, send files back to the remote store. The remote store will receive the files, process them in, send back to headquarters, Headquarters again will receive, process them in, send back to the remote. The remote will receive, process them in, send back to headquarters. And one more time, headquarters will send back to the remote. The remote will receive them and process them in and send back to headquarters, who will then receive and process them in. The purpose of that sending back and forth 3 times is to make sure that the headquarters and the remote store both have the exact same quantities in their inventories. Because when you do the physical inventory, what it is going to do is it is going to send to the headquarters whatever the differences are in the inventory. So this item here, if at the store I counted 3 of those, it's going to send difference of 1, of a -1 to headquarters. If headquarters doesn't also say it has 4 of those, then the number that headquarters has is going to be different. Instead of coming up with 3, if headquarters thought you already had 3, then it's going to now think you have 2. If it thought you had 5, now it's going to think you have 4. So it's important to make sure you get the inventories in sync before you start, so that you're adjusting the same numbers at both stores so that you end up with the same inventory. Otherwise, next time you do a sync between your remote store and headquarters, headquarters is going to send down the inventory quantities to the remote, and the remote's inventory quantities are going to be all wrong because they weren't perfectly synced with headquarters before you started. So it's important to get them in sync. So once you get past that and you're ready to actually start counting, you can rearrange the way you look at the merchandise in your physical inventory. Right now, I am sorted by item number. I could resort by department if I'm going to do my inventory by department. I could resort by vendor if I'm going to do it by vendor. I could resort by item name if I want to look for the item names. So I can resort my inventory in several different ways. Next thing I'm going to do is decide, am I doing this with a scanner, a physical inventory scanner, or am I going to do it manually? If I'm going to do it with a physical inventory scanner, I need to make sure that it is connecting properly to my point of sale. And so I want to test it and make sure that it is going to be able to read the information and put that information into my point of sale. If you're not familiar with that testing, it's a great idea to give us a call and have us go through that with you. If you're renting your physical inventory scanner from us, then we will set up an appointment for you the day before you're expecting to do your physical inventory, or the Friday before if you're doing it on a Sunday. And we will go through how to do the physical inventory, and we will test the scanner and make sure it is connected and working and talking to your computer. If you are doing it manually, you're going to just walk around and count things and write them down. Then you can go to I want to, run a report, and you can run a PI worksheet. The PI worksheet is going to show you what you have in inventory. I can resort this by however I plan to do my inventory. I can resort it by item number. I can sort it by department. I can sort it by vendor. Whichever makes sense, then it's going to make your inventory simpler. Once you have it sorted, you can print this sheet out. It tells you how many items it thinks you have. You're going to run around and count your items, enter them here under physical. Once you have them entered, you will go back to your point of sale, and you will add those counts into your inventory. There's 2 ways to do that. One is to simply come out here in the counted column and say, I have 3 of those. I have 3 of those. I found 2 of those. I only found 3 of those. I found 7 of those. Notice if my quantity doesn't match, I'm going to get a number over here in the difference quantity column. It'll either be a minus or it'll be a plus, telling me I'm short or I'm over. Down here in the bottom right-hand corner, I also get that information. It says I found one more item than I expected. I found one less than I expected. It shows me what the retail is on the items I found or the items I didn't find, and what the cost of those items, and what the difference is, whether I am up or down in my net count. I can also add items by going to I want to, add counts by hand, and I can enter in an item number, press enter, type how many of them I found, press enter, type in my next item number, how many I found, type in my next item number, and how many I found, etc. And I can go right on down the list. It doesn't matter how many I enter, but when I get done entering a few, I can go save. That will add those to my count sheet, and I can see whether I'm over or short. I can continue going through my entire list until I've added counts for everything, either by adding them directly to the counted column or by adding them to the manual on-hand sheet. If I am using an inventory scanner, I'm going to go to I want to, add counts from scanner. I'm going to get this retrieve scans page. I'll do a next. On your inventory scanner, you've got several little buttons there. The orange button is your scan button. Pressing that activates the scan light so you can scan an item. On either side of it, there's a little right angle arrow. That is your enter key. You can use either one, the one on the right or the left. They're both enter. There's an escape button. Escape takes you out of wherever you may be. The screen you see here on the computer, collect data, upload data, utilities, is called the home screen or the main screen. If you're not on that screen, you'll press escape to get back to that screen. If you're starting your scan from this screen, you'll press number 1. You'll then have two choices, either scan barcode or scan barcode enter quantity. You'll choose which way you want to do it. If you choose simply to scan the barcode, you'll simply run around and scan every item. You'll scan it. If you have the same 5 of the same item, you'll scan each of the single items. You'll have a total of 5 when you finish your count. If you have a box of 25 widgets and they're all exactly the same, you can use the scan with quantity. If you're scanning individual barcodes and you run across that box of widgets and you don't want to scan all 25 of them, you can press the escape key. That'll take you back to the collect data menu. You can choose scan with quantity, scan one of the widgets, type in 25 as your quantity, press either one of the enter keys, and that will add that quantity. You can then scan another item and enter the quantity. When you're in scan with quantity mode, you must type in a quantity for every single item you scan. Even if you only have one of those items, you'd have to type in a quantity of 1 and press enter. If you want to go back to just scanning barcodes again, you press escape, choose scan item, and then go back to just scanning the individual items. So when you bring your scanner back up to load it into the computer, you'll press escape so you get back on the main menu. You'll make sure that the scanner is in the cradle firmly, and you'll do a next. I don't happen to have a scanner connected to my computer right now, so if I do next, it's going to try to find the scanner and say it can't find it. If that happens, and it very well may, you'll simply say, okay, you'll do it back, take the scanner out of the cradle and reseat it. Because the scanner cradle does not have a positive lock in it, such that you click it into space and you know it's there. And so sometimes it just doesn't seat right. So if you get that can't read scanner, you just unseat it, reseat it, make sure nothing's fell down and covered up the pins, and try again until you get a good scan. When you get that scan, it's going to bring up a screen which shows you unrecognized scans and good scans. Hopefully, there's nothing on the unrecognized scan sheet, and it just shows you the good scan tab. The good scan tab will list everything you've scanned. At the bottom, there are a couple of 3 buttons. You want to choose the Select All button, and then choose Save Selected. That will add everything you scanned to your inventory count. If you found something on the Bad Scans tab, it's going to show you what you scanned, the bad thing, and the next good thing. So it'll show you the good thing, the bad thing, and the good thing. And you could have more than one bad thing, in which case you're just going to have a whole list of a good thing, a bad thing, and a good thing, all sandwiched together on a list of exceptions. You can print that exception page and go around and find the items that were bad scans, or you could also write them down. When you're first starting, it's not so horrible to print that scan page. However, it prints everything that has been scanned up to that point. So as you get along in your inventory and you go to print those bad scans, you're not just going to get the 5 or 6 or even a dozen bad scans, but your entire 5,000 items in your inventory. So you're going to use up a lot of paper. So if you have 5 or 6 items, it's usually more efficient paper-wise to write down the good thing, the bad thing, the good thing. Go locate the 2 good things, you can locate the bad thing. Put that bad thing on your fix-it table. And then at the end of your time, try rescanning the things on the fix-it table. If they don't scan, print new tags for them. And then rescan them so you get them added to your inventory count. And everything should be good. After it is read in, those scans, you're also going to get a screen that's going to pop up that is going to say clear memory in the middle of the screen. If you don't trust clearing your scanner until after you've verified the scans, you can skip that step for the moment and just go ahead and verify your scans. Or you can click the clear memory screen, which comes up before you see your good or bad scans. So you click the clear memory button in the middle of the screen, you go next. It says make sure you're on this screen, and you go next, and you see another screen with the clear memory button in the middle. You click that button, and it clears the errors out of your scanner, or the memory out of your scanner, and so there's nothing left in the scanner. And then when you say close, it shows you those good or bad scans. If you choose not to clear the memory right away, when you get back and you see your good or bad scans, well, you're only going to see the good scans, you go up here to I want to, and you can clear counts from scanner and do it that way. Then you're going to see the same basic screens. You go next, you click clear scanner memory, and it will clear the memory off the scanner. All right. So you're going to keep repeating those steps over and over until you have scanned your entire store. Once you've scanned everything, then you're going to come up here to I want to. Actually, before I do that, I would probably click this little checkbox down here, set all items not counted to 0. Anything you haven't counted, it's going to enter a 0 for it. So it looks like I missed a couple of items down here, since I have 7,900 items that I didn't bother to scan. or count. You only want to check this box if you're doing a complete physical inventory, counting everything in the store. If you are counting just one department, then you're not going to want to check that. Because if you check that and you're counting one department, you just zeroed out everything else you have in the store. So you're only going to check that if you're counting your entire store. What that's going to do is it will put zeros in anything you do not enter a physical count for. That means anything you have that might have a negative quantity, it's going to zero out. Anything that has a positive number that you didn't count or didn't find, it's going to make that zero as well. So it's going to zero out those things you couldn't find, and it's also going to zero out all those negatives. There is a vague chance that a couple of those negatives could be legitimate, because maybe you sold something that you didn't have in stock, and you didn't put it on a sales order, but you actually sold it outright on a customer sales receipt, knowing you didn't have it, and that you were going to give it to the customer when the item showed up. In that case, those negatives would be legitimate, and you would want to count those items as negatives. So if you sold -2 of something that you did not have, you'd want to be sure to put a -2 in for the count, so that when the inventory actually arrives and you get those 2 items, it's going to make that number 0. Because if you zero it and you get those in, it's going to make it a +2, but you've already sold them, so therefore they've already been taken out of inventory. You think you have 2 more than you actually have available. So you want to be really careful. So it's not really a good idea to sell something you don't have in stock unless you're putting it on a sales order, because on a sales order it doesn't take it out of inventory. Which brings up another possible issue you could run into. Items that you might have on layaway. If you have an item on layaway, it also does not come out of inventory. So if you have items on layaway, and you have your layaways all tucked away in a special spot in your store, you want to be sure to go through and count those items as part of your inventory count. Otherwise, again, your quantities are going to be wrong before you even get done. All right. So once you're done, if you're doing the entire store and you check the little checkbox, then you want to check and find out how well you did. So you're going to go to I want to run a report, then you're going to run a differences report. That differences report is going to show you what you counted that doesn't match what I thought you should have. Notice it doesn't show anything that I didn't put a count number beside. Anything I put a count number beside, it's going to show me, am I over or short on those items. If I check the set all items not counted to 0, and I run that same report again, now because I've set everything I didn't count to 0, I'm going to get a lot more stuff on that differences report. Because everything that got set to 0 is now a difference. One more thing on that setting all items not counted to 0 is that sometimes when you exit out of point of sale and come back into it, that checkbox might be checked. However, everything is not coming up as set to 0. So it's a good idea if you open up point of sale, or if you open up the inventory, and you see that that checkbox is checked, to uncheck it and then recheck it. That will make sure that it actually adds the zeros everywhere so that you're getting the correct counts. And it doesn't matter if you do that before or after, because if I have a 0, I can always come in here and change the number by adding a number, and if I change the number, it overrides the 0. If in the process of counting, when you look at that differences sheet, it's a good idea to go around and kind of spot check those things and see if you can actually find those things. So if I go back and look, and I find out that, oh, I had a difference of -2 of these DVDs here, or this Hansel and Gretel item here, and I look and I find out, oh, I found those. I can change this 3 to a 5, and it will zero that back out. So I can change the number if I go spot check the item and find out, well, I just miscounted initially, and so I can correct the count. Once I am totally done, and I am satisfied that my inventory is as good as it's going to get, I should do a save and continue, close out of here, go back to File, and do a backup again. That allows me to get a backup of my data just before I change it. So then I go back into my inventory, my physical inventory, and it's going to be right where it was when I left it. I've got all the same numbers in there. So I've got all my numbers in. I have set my quantities not counted to 0. I've backed up my data. I then want to apply changes to inventory. When I do that, whatever number I have in the counted column is going to become my new inventory quantity. Whether it's 0 or whether it's some positive number, or even if it should be a negative number. So when I do apply changes, it says if I click yes, it's going to change my quantities to match my count, and it's going to create an adjustment memo for anything whose quantities didn't match. So I click yes, I say okay, and my inventory has been updated. I can run that differences report if I somehow forgot to before I did my actual update. I can have it go run that report, and it will run that report, and I can see my differences. And I can print it out, and away we go. I've done my physical. As part of that, I also created a quantity adjustment memo. And so if I go to my quantity adjustment history, I will see here I did a physical inventory. And if I change this to today, I can see here's today's adjustment memo. It was for physical inventory. And I can see what items the quantities changed on. I can print that if I desire, or I can just close out of it because it'll be here forever. And that is your physical inventory. It's a real good idea before you do a physical to give us a call and set up an appointment to go over doing a physical, to make sure you understand how to get in and out, make sure you understand the process, do a practice inventory so that you can kind of get the feel for it, and be all set when you get ready to do your actual inventory. When you're doing your actual physical inventory, it's a good idea for us to know that you're doing an inventory, because then we can put you on our list so that should you have an issue doing your inventory, we can treat your call as a priority so that you don't have to wait so long for someone to help you solve that problem you may be having. Hopefully, when you're doing the inventory, you won't have any problems. It'll just go quickly and smoothly. but it's a good idea to be on our list so that if you do have an issue, our techs all know to give you a priority. Where the only people who would have a higher priority than you would be the ones who are down and can't make a sale. All right. So if you have any questions or issues, give us a call, drop us a note, and we'll do our best to help you resolve those. So everybody have a great one. Hope you got some good information or reminded yourself on things to think about doing a physical inventory. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.